Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt, and I work in the operations team here at Naturetrek HQ. I currently manage a number of tours ranging from North America and down to Southeast Asia. But for tonight, I'm going to talk to you about Somerset and Cornwall. And I'll start off with Somerset. So Somerset is one of our most popular UK tours. It's only a 3-day tour, and we run it in the winter, but also in late spring and early summer as well. But for the purpose of this evening, I'm just going to concentrate on our winter tour, as that is very popular indeed. Okay, so we base our tours in the centre of the cultural and small city of Wells, and the hotel is situated directly opposite Wells Cathedral, as you can see from this bedroom. If you do want this bedroom, you may have to pay a wee bit extra, but it is with a fine view. But the hotel is very adequate. They're very used to Naturetrek groups. We've been going there for a number of years, so they're very much used to what we want and what our clients want. So it's a wonderful base for us, and all our sites are roughly around a 45-minute drive away maximum. Some are only 20 minutes away, so there's not too much driving on this tour as well. So this is just a flavour of what one of the hotel looks like. And how this tour works. So it's a 3-day tour, and the tour doesn't officially start until the first evening. So if you wish to arrive around mid-afternoon, that gives you time to wander around the city and also visit the cathedral as well. And this is Wells Cathedral in its finest, and it really is a spectacular structure and a wonderful addition to this tour. But our main concentration is, of course, on the Somerset levels. So we spend 2 whole days circumnavigating all the various minor roads which circumnavigate the entire area, an area, in fact, of around 160,000 acres. So there's quite a lot to work on, but thankfully the local guides we use, they're very familiar with the area, so you're in very good hands indeed. So for our 2 full days, after our general introduction on the first evening, is that we head to around 45 minutes away to a small woodland. Firstly, before I go on to that, I'm rushing ahead of myself this evening. So our tours are very easygoing in Somerset. So we visit a number of nature reserves. So there's plenty of birdwatching hides to go into. So plenty of relaxation, and a number of pathways as well are either along boardwalks such as this one or on well-maintained pathways. So you don't have to have a high level of fitness at all. It's all generally very flat, apart from the small woodland, which I'm just about to introduce you to. So it's all very nice and easy, nice and calm, and excellent birding indeed. And in fact, it's one of my favorite areas in the UK, and I'm very well traveled in the UK, but Somerset is very special indeed. So our first morning, so we head around 45 minutes away from the hotel, and we head down to the south end of the Somerset levels to a small woodland to get a very good flavour, a nice introduction to the bird watching in the area of the woodland birds, but it also gives a fantastic viewpoint over the southern end of the Somerset levels. And here is a really good opportunity to catch up with one of our main target birds, and that is the common crane. Now, numbers here are still rather low, but you can get flocks of up to 30 or 40, especially if we go to their roost. We don't tend to do it on the Somerset Levels 3-day tour, only because we concentrate our efforts at the starling roost, which of course I will touch onto later. So that's why we visit here in the morning to try and get our view of the common crane, a beautiful species. And the later on in the winter you leave it, the better chance you have of seeing them dancing on the levels, and it is a fantastic sight. As you can see from this individual, it is ringed. This is part of the reintroduction scheme of common cranes on the Somerset levels, but there are a fair few which aren't ringed as well. So you do have the opportunity to not see them with any fancy footwear. Okay, so some of the species we do see in the woods, for example, great spotted woodpecker. nice and easy in the woodlands. We do visit a feeding station as well, so that brings in birds such as the nuthatch. But this wood is exceptional in the spring or winter. In the winter, of course, great chance of seeing the UK's smallest member bird, the goldcrest. It's also excellent for a tree creeper as well. And in the spring, if we were to come here in the spring, which we do on our Somerset Levels in spring tour, breeding spotted flycatchers are here, and there's also a heronry as well, which is rather raucous in the early breeding season. So this is a fantastic introduction to our tours in the Somerset Levels, but we do go on to concentrate our main efforts on the levels themselves. I'm just going to keep this slide up for a wee few seconds to see if you can spot the 4 species of duck which are in this photo. So in the winter, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of ducks are on the levels, and intermixed on very rare occasions is the odd rare bird. Last year, some of our groups were very lucky to see a drake bicow teal, and our tour, which has just returned from the levels at the weekend, saw an American widgeon and a lesser scaup as well. So if you have looked through this photo, there are 4 species. That's teal, widgeon, we have a gadwall here, and then a couple of shoveler as well. Well done if you got all those. And we do also visit a number of sites which yield fantastic views of some very cryptic species, which are very hard to see well in the UK. And of course, one is the common snipe. Views such as this are very achievable on this tour. Now, great white egrets, this is somewhat of a success story on the Somerset Levels. In 2012, the first breeding pair was noted on the levels, and that was the first breeding pair in the UK. Now, or in 2020, 50 fledglings were found, which is absolutely incredible and just goes to show what a productive area this is for herons. And it really, really is, especially in the winter months. So the cattle egret, and their numbers have skyrocketed in the past few years on the levels. Last year when I was down there, this wasn't part of a Naturetrek tour, but it was in between tours. I counted a single flock of 220 cattle egrets, which is just bonkers, really. If you were to go back 10 years, you probably wouldn't have seen a cattle egret in Somerset. So again, another success story, and maybe a bit of global warming in there as well. So this view here, we've got Glastonbury Tor in the background, but this is just to show you the navigation pathways, etc., of reed beds, which attracts obviously one of the most cryptic herons that we have here in the UK. Now, if you just look along the left-hand channel here, it's okay, there's no bird there, so you don't have to go searching for a bird. But if you look out on the left, just around here, hopefully you can see my cursor. These are more small channels heading inland. And these are the perfect feeding areas for the bittern, which again do very well on the Somerset Levels. A species which was an extinct breeder here in the UK not too long ago. Now on the levels themselves, so just within the 160,000 acres of the Avalon marshes, there are around now 45 breeding pairs, which is absolutely remarkable. So if you are on one of our tours, you do stand a good chance, not a guaranteed chance, but a good chance of seeing a bittern. And our tour, which just came back at the weekend, they had a very nice flight view of a bittern. So fantastic news for them. Bearded tits also do very well on the levels, and you can get views such as this one. Last winter was exceptionally good for this species on the levels. This winter, not so much, but they do move around a lot. So you do definitely have to be in the right place at the right time. But obtaining views such as this is not an impossibility at all. However, when one comes to the Somerset Levels in the winter, you have to see a starling, and preferably more than one or a dozen, roughly around 500,000 to 1.5 million starlings. Very much depends on the winter. This winter has been exceptional for the starling murmurations, mainly because of the cold weather we have had. Now, it really is a spectacular sight, and I cannot emphasize it enough that it is truly one of the natural wonders, not not just here in the UK, but in Europe and potentially even the world as well. The Somerset Levels has the greatest number of starlings in the UK, which creates a mass murmuration, especially if the birds of prey are also knocking about. But I'll touch on that in a bit. So please just imagine yourself for the time being along a pathway with dusk not too far away, marsh areas swirling around you, and then all of a sudden on a distant hillside, there's a dark cloud forming towards you, and that cloud just goes on and on and on. And 10-15 minutes later, there's roughly 500,000 starlings swirling around you, all above you, ready to go and roost in the reed bed. Now, it's not until the birds of prey arrive that these murmurations are formed. So the starlings, their main goal is to get within the reed bed. They do not want to be swirling around and displaying for everyone gawping up at them. They want to get into the reed beds, but it's the birds of prey which are around which cause these murmurations. So species like the merlin, it's not seen on every trip. They are quite difficult on the levels, but a very good chance and they will happily take a starling. But marsh areas, these are the main cause for the murmurations, and they won't tackle them mid-air. They will wait until the starlings have settled in the reeds themselves before trying to pluck one out. So the starlings have gone down, and if a marsh area goes over, the starlings swirl back up again, creating mass complication, and it's just absolutely fantastic. And the noise associated with the whirring and everything is just amazing. And hen harrier as well. These are seen on most of our tours, especially around the starling murmuration, because them too will take a starling out of the reed bed, but they can be seen elsewhere as well. And there's usually a good wintering population on the levels. Okay, I'll just nip back, sorry. So if that hasn't enticed you enough, then I'm sorry, but it really is a fantastic trip. And we do have spaces on our Somerset Levels tour on the 22nd of February. So it's a 3-day tour. If you have some free time, it's well worth getting down there because, as I said, the starling murmurations this winter have been fantastic. Okay, that is Somerset. That's a whistle-stop tour. We're now going to head down to Cornwall. So this is a relatively new tour, post-pandemic, and it's a 5-day tour. And it's a tour I created, and I must be biased. It's a very nice tour. It encompasses all areas of natural history, ranging from birds, botany, dragonflies and damselflies, butterflies, and of course it's mammals as well. And the title of this tour is called Cornwall, I can't remember now. Beavers, Choughs and Cetaceans. There we go. I got it out. And this is the hotel we stay at. So it's just on the outskirts of Falmouth. So not too far down, not all the way down to Penzance, thank goodness. And this is the hotel, a very nice hotel, a 3-star. And this is just the type of bedroom. So you can just have a look there. A very nice hotel. Okay, so as I said, it's a 5-day tour. So the first evening you get there, you meet and greet, blah, blah, blah. Then day 2, you head down to the Lizard to walk a beautiful coastal path. So there is some level of fitness required for this tour, but nothing too strenuous ever occurs on this tour. But we head down to the Lizard, not only for its beautiful display of wild flowers, but also to see the chough. So that's one on the checklist of the tour title of this tour. So the red-billed chough is doing very well on Cornish headlands, especially on the Lizard, which is where they were initially introduced. So you can get wonderful views such as this, and very close views as well, which this picture portrays. This is a photo from one of our tour leaders, Martin Batt, taken in 2021. And as you can see, it has its rings there. So if this bird happened to turn up in Dorset, for example, they would know exactly where it's came from. And that is the general idea of this reintroduction, to try and get them to spread along the English coastline. Okay, on the 3rd day of this tour, we do have a very special experience and heading to a rewilding destination called Windmill hill, I believe. And I'm not sure if you observed or watched Spring Watch back in 2021, but this site was actually, I mean, it was on the program, so you can have a very good insight to it, or maybe get it on BBC iPlayer, but it may have gone back by then. Anyway, this is the site that we go for to try and find the beaver. By no means guaranteed. If you look at the foliage on either side of this small lake, they can be very tricky indeed. However, we have had 100% success rate on finding the beaver on this tour. It's around 4 or 5 times now, and it's due to run again this July. And there we go, you can get views such as this. So this was taken by our tour leader last year. And so the views can be absolutely wonderful of the Eurasian beaver. And last year, on last year's tour, they were also very lucky to witness the release of many water voles. So if you join our tour this year, you may be lucky to see a water vole as well. Now, our tour leader this year is very keen on his moths. So if you have a keen interest in moths, then you're especially going to like this one. The hotel allows us to run a moth trap each evening. So if you want to get up early and join the tour leader, then by all means, please do. And you can see such goodies as this poplar hawk moth. However, one of the main attractions on this tour is a little venture out into the English Channel. So as I said, we were based near Falmouth, and we actually depart out to sea from Falmouth, which is great news. So again, not really much long driving on this tour. So this chart, it just displays the typical species one can encounter on one of our excursions, which usually last around 5 or 6 hours. And this year we're scheduled to have a brand new catamaran, which is very exciting. And the skipper is equally excited, trust me. And so we're hopeful to get out much further to observe the number of species that one can see in Cornish waters. So if we're just looking at the chart there, the short-beaked common dolphin is by far the commonest one can expect to see, and harbour porpoise as well, and do very well down here too. But currently, as I speak, there is a fin and humpback whale in Cornish waters, not quite this far east. However, they are around, and you may be lucky to see one of the great whales as well. Who knows? But it's very exciting being out at sea there. Of course, it's not just the cetaceans we're there for, it's the seabirds as well. A whole variety of shearwaters. You could see up to 5 species on a single boat trip. So that's great koi's, blerick, manx, and maybe something else as well I've forgotten. But and storm petrels as well. Maybe the odd puffin, quite rare, but peregrine falcon, razorbill, and guillemots, you get the idea. It really is a fantastic addition to this tour. Now, great northern diver, this was actually seen on last year's tour. This is a non-breeding bird, so it basically couldn't be bothered to fly all the way up north to breed, so it stayed in the Cornish waters where there's plenty of food, and stayed the entire summer, and seen by our group last year. And as I said, short-beaked common dolphins, they're very common down here, and they are the most common cetacean in Cornish waters. You may have more appearances of harbour porpoise, but of course they're always in these smaller pods. Now, on our tour in 2021, we were very lucky to see a pod of Risso's dolphins on this boat trip. And the group were very lucky, in fact, to have the dolphin's tail slap right in front of us. So that really was a spectacle, and it lasted around 15 or 20 minutes. So what's great about this is that we can actually contribute to science as well. So each photo of a dolphin, especially a Risso's dolphin, which aren't that regular in UK waters, can be sent off to a database, and each individual could possibly be identified. So you could be adding to science on this holiday, which is absolutely fantastic, of course. Now, our final full day on this trip is pretty much just a cleanup, really, to try and target the species that we've not seen, and maybe try and and increase our chances of finding a different array of wildlife. And in this instance, that's the Odonata of the trip. There's a very good reserve, again, not too far away from Falmouth, where we have the chance of seeing a red-veined darter, for example. So this is actually a scarce visitor to the UK, but with the warming, etc., and the distribution expanding, red-veined darters are now quite a regular breeder along the southern counties, and Cornwall is no exception. And last but not least, the golden ring dragonfly as well, a spectacular, large, robust dragonfly, and that's always a firm favourite for any Odonata enthusiasts on a trip. And this was taken by our client Roger Pritchard in 2021.